Jared,
John,
how you doing, man?
I'm doing great.
Yeah. How's your morning
I
been?
really am. Life is good. I've got. Did you meet my kids the other day when you were
didn't.
here for the
No.
session? I've got 3 kids and a wife upstairs. Not literally right this second. They're at school. We're just enjoying life with 3 kids, keeping a business going, couple of businesses going, and
Yeah.
things are good, man.
Is it easy to balance like the family and the studio and
I would not say that it's ever easy, but I think that the more time goes by, the better I get at it.
yeah.
Yeah. Especially, it can be, there's a lot of benefits to working from home. So where we're at right now is at my house.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of benefits to working from home. Like if I have an idea, I can just pop down and take care of it and then go back to what I was doing. But it can also make it hard to put boundaries around work
Yeah.
sometimes, as
Yeah.
you can imagine. So,
Yeah. I when I came over the other day, I was like, do I go through the front door? Like Tim's like, no, just go around back. And like y'all were in here. I don't think y'all could hear me, and I was like, I don't want to just walk into someone's house.
yeah.
But that's probably a way you like kind of keep the two separated.
Yeah. So, two quick funny things. One is I've literally had people come around saying, like, I feel like I'm breaking the rules or something, just walking into somebody's backyard.
Yeah.
Or like, is somebody gonna? So that is a thing. And prior to finishing this basement 7 years ago, I was in basically the study off of the living room upstairs. And that was a trip because if you can imagine trying to do like any focused creative work
Yeah.
with, at the time, a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old running around outside, and the doors didn't latch. They're the kind that if you just push them hard enough, they just swing open. No. And I love those kids to death and would do anything for them, but it was very impossible to get anything done.
Yeah, like
there.
any type of piano or guitar, it's just
Yeah,
it's
or
over.
even just like focusing on anything.
Right. Yeah.
So now that's the room that my wife works in all the time. Thankfully, our kids are in school now, or
Yeah.
she'd be in the same dilemma I
Oh,
was. But yeah, this is a big improvement.
Yeah. Well, and you have like nice like sound treatment, and it
Yep.
feels quiet down here.
Yep.
Yeah.
So a little funny story when I finished this room 7 years ago. When I first walked in here after the contractors gave it to us, I almost had a panic attack because it was just this empty rectangular box. And I clapped. And if you've ever been in a racquetball court, it was like, I was like, oh no, what have we spent so much money? What if this is a disaster? And then like a couple weeks later, I got the panels in here. I was like, oh. So
It's fine.
It's fine.
Yeah.
They're not like a little contribution. They're everything.
Right.
Like acoustics in your room as an engineer or producer, to me, they're 10 times more important than what monitors you use.
Really?
Yes. Like
Okay.
I have decent little monitors,
Yeah.
but I would rather have $100 set of monitors in this acoustic treatment than these monitors and not enough treatment.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. So it's funny you say that because I'll go on Reddit for different nerdy things, and a lot of people ask like, "What's your favorite mic? What's the best mic? Whatever." And all the comments are, "Do sound treatment. Do sound treatment."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm just like, I'll just get a Neumann, but I know if I did, like, I really want one, and I probably will get one eventually, but I know, like, in my apartment that has 0 sound treatment,
Yes.
I will hear the fridge creaking, the air conditioning, the cat down the road, like...
Well, and it's not just that. There is the isolation, but more important to me is the actual sound of the room.
Oh, like the blank canvas of monitoring stuff?
Well, also, but even like recording in here, like I have a little vocal booth thing over here for singers, and if I didn't have treatment in here, there's no way I'd get a good vocal sound. It would be like recording in a bathroom,
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
And that's just not the sound of pop music.
Right.
So, yeah, it's really important for monitoring. It's really important for recording as well. I might have gone slightly overboard with what I have,
You do have a
but
lot.
I really wanted it to be very controlled and to not be second guessing.
Yeah.
So for me, it works well.
Yeah. Do you mind if I ask how much you spent on the sound treatment?
I don't mind. I don't know if I'm going to be able to answer it because I kind of bought it over several years.
Oh, okay.
So I had some of this already for the room upstairs. And I bought that over 5 or 6 years. And then in the 7 years that I've been down here, I've slowly kind of added
So
on
one
to it.
panel at a time.
Yeah.
mean,
And
I'm-
people that are more handy than me will say, why are you buying this stuff? You can like make it really cheaply. And that is true. Like you can make it a lot more cheaply than you can buy it from places.
Yeah.
For me, I am just not that handy, and it was just easier for me to buy it. There's a great company in Atlanta called GIK Acoustics. Are you familiar with them?
Mm-mm.
They are great people, great company, right in Atlanta, Spaghetti Junction, if Atlanta folks know where that is.
Yeah.
And they're relatively affordable compared to a lot of other companies.
And they did.
They did
this
all.
stuff?
This is all GIK.
I got you.
Yes.
Do they do any of the weird, like, analyze the room and
They
stuff
don't
like
do
that?
that, but they do free, like if you send them a drawing of your room, they will do a free consultation, say like, hey, based on, okay, you're trying to mix and record in this room and here are the dimensions. We think you should put bass traps in the corners and reflections here and whatever. They'll do kind of a general
Yeah.
recommendation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you seen those? I think it's called the Halo, maybe, but it's like the purple.
Yes.
Have you seen those?
Yes.
Do you recommend them at all?
I have
do-
one somewhere, something like that. I don't know. Actually, I think I think it's on the back of that ribbon mic out there right now.
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah, they're cool. Like, I don't think that they're as good as that thing. But they're definitely better than
Nothing.
sticking a mic in a not great room.
That's true.
Like, if you're in a normal suburban bedroom type room,
Yeah.
you need something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have some questions from Instagram.
Okay.
So I'm going to go through them, answer them as truthfully or as not. I mean, if you
Okay,
want to make
like a
stuff
truth
up
or
too.
dare situation?
Yeah. No. If you want to throw people off your trail to success. No, I'm just kidding. So first one, Allie asks, what's the coolest story with someone you've worked with?
The coolest story from someone I've worked with.
Coolest / funniest is what she asked.
That's tough. I don't know that. I mean, I have. You know, we talked when we were texting earlier. I have little moments here and there, of, like brushes with interesting or famous people that have been cool.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, the coolest thing that I can think about, and this might be a little bit of a cop out, it's not really a story, but it's more just looking back on having moved to Atlanta from the small town I grew up in Texas. And essentially coming here as like a young single guy straight out of college and interning at North Point Ministries here in Atlanta and kind of just discovering this big music community that exists in Atlanta. And
Yeah.
I feel like North Point provided, it was like a supercharged entry
Right.
to that in terms of just the sheer number of people that I was able to quickly meet and play with and make friends with.
Yeah.
I think that what I'm more grateful for than anything is, as I look back over 15 years in Atlanta and however many years in Texas before that, is just all the relationships with regular musicians and producers and like people that are just doing the thing that you haven't heard of that are amazing at what they do and amazing human beings. And I just feel really fortunate to be surrounded by literally dozens of people like that.
Yeah. The people.
Yes.
The people aspect, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the supercharged, yeah. Well, and that's like, we were talking about like why I do this podcast and the opportunity that I've had, just meeting so many musicians with my job and just being so involved with music. Like, I mean, that's what it's about. Like,
Yes.
the people and like when you produce or mix for someone, like, like you're building a friendship with them, and it makes the music better.
And it's making me, it's like, it's enriching me as a person.
Yeah.
Like I'm getting exposed to different perspectives and people that grew up in different places and might think about things differently than me. And it's just all great on a human level.
Yeah.
And that's been pretty fabulous. In terms of like just one random interesting thing, I mean, probably the Chuck Berry thing
Yeah.
would be pretty high up there.
Yeah.
Chuck, he's dead now, but he apparently his entire career hired most of his band locally wherever he played.
Really?
And so when I was in Texas and playing in cover bands while I was in college, one of the guys I played with was like, "Hey man, Chuck Berry's coming to town and he's trying to put a band together." I don't remember how this guy got in contact with us, but he was like, I'm going to do drums. I think you should do piano. And then he's bringing a bass player with him. I was like, okay. And we sound checked with Chuck. We never met him during sound check. He wasn't there. So we sound checked for Chuck, not with Chuck.
Yeah.
He came in, played a 45-minute set at the event. It was like this private party for like a billionaire lawyer in an aircraft hangar.
That's so random.
And he played the 45-minute set. He finished playing, walked off stage while he's still playing We're Vamping Out. And by the time we finished vamping out and left the stage, he was gone. So I never met him, but I played with him.
That's crazy.
And somewhere I have a picture that somebody took there of him coming over and like smiling at me while I was taking a piano solo.
That's crazy. Yeah, he doesn't have his own band. I kind of like that, but also, how do you trust? Like, how did he know you were good enough to play?
I don't think that he
probably didn't know or didn't care.
I was going to say, I don't think that he cared. So, and you can stop me if I'm getting in the weeds.
No,
because I know
deep
the
dive.
time
No,
thing.
deep
But
dive.
the funniest, my funniest memory from that gig was the bassist, who I guess was sort of his music director, would kind of wrangle the local bands.
Yeah.
Said like, he had, I don't remember, it was like, hey, if I do this, that's 3 sharps up. That means key of A. And if I do this, it means 3 flats. Down is 3 flats, so it's like the key of E flat. So and it was all this weird stuff. And he's like, and if I do this in the middle of a song, be ready to change in the middle of the song. I'm like, okay. So during the gig, at some point, Chuck threw a piano solo to me, and then he went, and it's all kind of 12-bar blues based. It's just rock and roll and blues based stuff, very simple.
Yeah.
And after a round or two of it, like Chuck looked at the bass player, and the bass player went like that, and everybody went up a half step. It's like, okay.
So did you know about the half step? So you're just like following along.
I'm just playing, and then they're like up a half step. I'm like, okay. And then I'm on keys.
Yeah.
And then like 5 or 10 seconds later, they took it up again or back down. I can't remember. And they did this like 2 or 3 times. And Chuck Berry had this look on his face. I was just like I perceived that he could not care less. He's just like, I'm out here, I'm 80 years old, cashing huge checks and having the time of my life.
Right.
I'm going to play with the local guys and see if they can hang on. And when I was done with my piano solo, he came over and like the next guy was taking a solo, and he was like, You're pretty good, man.
That's funny.
All right, well, that's the test. You can change keys in the middle of your solo. All right.
I wonder if he's like must have had some catastrophic fail at some point doing that to people.
Oh, sure.
Like,
But again,
just
I don't think
randomly.
he cares. I think
Yeah.
that's part of the spice of life
Yeah.
for him.
He's just having fun.
Yeah.
There's a guy at our church that runs a worship fails page. So like anytime there's an auto-tune thing or whatever, and it's funny, he'll like post it. So Chuck Berry was like the originator of
Yep.
the fails. No, that's funny. That's crazy. Did it sound good? Because I feel like just random half step changes would sound really weird.
We made it sound fine.
Yeah.
I mean,
You wouldn't have chose to do it.
I wouldn't have chose that. If somebody would ask me, I would have said, that's going to make it sound like circus music.
Yeah.
But if you don't do that, then great.
Did you get paid okay from that?
I think we made like $200 or something.
So just any other random.
Yeah, just a
gig.
random.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, but you got to play with Chuck Berry.
I would have done it for free, obviously. So I don't think I even asked. I mean, I was like 23
Yeah.
or something. So I was like, okay, I'm there.
That is a crazy story.
Crazy story.
Yeah, that's crazy. He did Johnny Be Good, right?
Yep.
Did y'all play it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I don't remember what all we played, but it's all kind of in that vein.
Yeah. It's all the same song, just a different title or.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all kind of in that vein. But it was very cool to play with somebody who is kind of beyond an icon. Like, he's a pioneer of basically everything. If it has electric guitars and drums in it, no matter what style it is, then you can sort of trace it back to him.
Yeah.
On something.
Yeah, he's kind of.
So that was kind of crazy to spend 45 minutes with him.
He's like kind of one of the main branches on the tree
Yes.
of the.
It's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. His branch was very large, and then all these little. Yeah. Yeah, I think that was one of the first. I mean, within the first year of me learning guitar, that was one of the.
You
Be
learned.
Good.
Yeah. You learned that.
Yeah, we played it. I played it. I was like in this very bad jazz band, and we played John Be Good. And I'd like to think that I was a shining star in it, but I mean, I was probably really bad at it too. So, but yeah. So, and then Back to the Future.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I forget what the phone call was, but he's like, "God, you gotta listen to this guy." And
Yeah.
I'm sure Chuck Berry reference was in there somewhere.
Yes.
So, so Thad. Okay, so this one's heated, so you can skip this one if you want.
All right.
Who did you vote for?
Who did I vote for? For student council?
Sure.
Yeah.
You can skip this one.
Well, since he didn't say which election or which office, I will just say, I'll say that I am a relatively free-thinking person who has probably found myself both in agreement and disagreement on most things with most people that I know.
Okay. I understand.
I'll say that.
Yeah.
I at this point in my life, the older that I get, the less boxed in and certain that stuff feels to me.
Yeah.
And the more complex things seem, and the more it seems like there's gray areas in understanding how the world works.
Yeah.
And so, in a way, it's not irrelevant, but in a way, like, who I end up voting for isn't the most relevant thing.
Yeah.
Because no matter what I do there, I'm probably voting for something that I don't like.
Right.
That's what I would say. Good question. I don't know.
I don't know if it was.
I don't know I don't know why Thad cares about what I think about that. But there you go, Thad.
Who knows? What's your favorite plugin in this moment?
Favorite plugin? I don't know about favorite, but I'll just go by what I throw on probably the most in any given session is called Soothe by OEK Sound. I think the way they brand it is as a dynamic resonance suppressor, which basically means, so typically say you've got an electric guitar and there's sort of that one nail on the chalkboard frequency that you're trying to dig out, or you've got a vocal and when they sing low it gets muddy and when they sing high it gets piercing, and a lot of times you would grab like a multi-band compressor or a dynamic EQ to fix that stuff, but then you're having to make static choices as to what and where and how much you're fixing. Something like Soothe basically analyzes the signal a zillion times a second and finds those resonances and takes them out until they're done, and then it goes back up. So if you look at the meter, it's just constantly, like if you run a vocal through it, you just see it tickling things all over the place. So it'll be like, you have to be careful not to overuse it. Like you can really suck the life out of something by overusing that, but properly applied, it saves a lot of work down the line. For instance, on a vocal, something that I like to do a lot is get the upper mids and the sibilants and stuff really controlled on a vocal. Really, really, really controlled through the beginning part of the channel strip, so that at the end of the channel strip, I can add high end back, but it's very controlled. And Soothe really helps with that on the front end. Like it'll do the first 50, 70% of the work for me. To where then on an actual EQ, I'm only having to find 2 or 3 things to take out. And then when I have my Pulsec at the end and I want to put the shine in, the shine is just wonderful because there's nothing that's like
spiking that, the final touch on it.
So, but it's good on bass guitar, like when bass gets tubby on certain notes, it'll fix that. I put it on whole mixes sometimes. It has like a 2x mode where it will be like it's kind of an oversampling thing where it's a little bit higher resolution, uses more CPU, but it's good on mixes. If you get to the end of a mix and you're like, this is all great except this one frequency band that's just not quite right, and I don't want to go
too hot.
Find that out. So I would say Soothe, man. That and Shep's Omni-Channel. Channel strip.
That's a Waves plugin. Yeah.
Waves.
Yeah. I got like a free, it is free, but I didn't pirate it. It is a free, but it's like not quite as good as the Shep's, but but yes.
Shep's, I could do, other than needing like a reverb, delay, chorus type thing, I could do an entire mix with Shep's Omni-Channel.
Yeah, because it has saturation, compression.
It has 2 bands of de-essing.
Yeah, I was about to say de-essing.
It has
EQ.
Yep, it's got a limiter at the end of it.
Yeah.
So
it's your pocket knife.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep. Michael asks, who's your favorite artist to work with?
Favorite artist to work with? I'm assuming they mean like a music artist, because I do, my time is spent kind of cut between music production, scoring for films, doing live arrangements for events, and then I also have this audio post side where the artist that I work with is like a film director,
right,
or whatever. So I think this question's probably geared at music production. I have to say probably one of my favorite things that I've worked on, and it's been a few years, was Clay Finnison's project about 4 years ago. He did an album that he had me do half the songs, and then Cody Fry, if you know who that is, did half the songs. And that in and of itself was very intimidating because Cody Fry is a monster. So I was like, okay, well, I need to get my act together.
Yeah.
But Clay since then has turned into a friend, and he's a great songwriter. He's really a good producer in his own right.
Yeah.
And that's like the best relationship when you have an artist coming in the studio who is looking for your guidance and your opinion and all that, but they're not hanging out waiting on you to have the solution to every problem. Like they're coming in with their own ideas. They're like, hey, what if you did this? And, you know, maybe I suggest something and they're like, yes, and they'll add to it. Or they might be like, yeah, I don't know if that fits the vision. Like,
Yeah.
that's, you know, you do production. Like, I'm sure you can relate. That is like the optimal scenario as a producer, where the people that you are producing are
Participating
you
yeah,
in a way.
right.
Like, even when you're programming something or whatever, they're having input
Yeah.
and doing that. So,
And not just saying, I don't like it. Like,
yeah.
after, which is good, but after a while, you're just like, I don't know what you want me to do.
Yes, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, them contributing to the ideas.
Having vision
Helps.
for themselves
Yeah.
and knowing at least to an extent what they want to do.
Yeah.
So Clay's a great guy, great writer, great musician.
Yeah.
I like him. I'd love to do some more with him at some point.
Heck yeah. So this is my question.
Okay.
So I've been buying, plugins here and there, and they're really expensive for the good ones.
Yeah.
And you could easily spend $1,000 on 3 plugins.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had to choose 10 plugins to run your whole studio the rest of your life, you couldn't buy any more, what 10 would they be?
10.
Mm-hmm.
Not counting the stuff that comes with your DAW, because like Pro Tools and Logic come with built-in stuff, and some of it's pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Stuff that, yeah, and if 10's too easy, we can shrink that number down. So,
Okay. Yeah. I think Soothe would be one.
yep.
I think Shep's Omnichannel would be one. I think Valhalla Vintage Verb I use
Cheap,
all the
easy.
time.
Yep.
Cheap. Echo Boy Jr. Sound Toys I use all the time. Cheap.
Decapitator?
Decapitator would probably be one. How many is that? 5 or 6?
That's 5. Yep.
Trying to think. Let's see. Compress it. I would probably throw in there. Well, you're gonna make me choose Waves or UA. I'd probably throw in there the newer UAD-X native versions of the Pultec EQ and the LA2 and the 1176.
Is that 3?
That's 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is the Pultec? I haven't heard about that one.
The Pultec? Was originally like a program equalizer way back in the day, so it's like very broad, kind of sculpting EQ. Like, it's not, you don't use it for like surgical things, or even like it's like if you turn up 8K, it's just like this very gradual and it's just glorious.
So it's just EQ, but you like the interface of it.
Say again.
You like the interface of it.
I like the sound of it. I like the sound.
So
of
it's EQ?
Yeah,
Just EQ.
just EQ.
Does it color it at all, or is it just?
Yes, it adds color.
Oh, okay.
It adds some. It's a tube equalizer, I think, in the hardware form. So I think it definitely adds some saturation and some color and some goodness. And there's, yeah, if you or anyone listening is not familiar with Pultec, it would be worth a couple of hours just to do a deep dive on Pultec.
Okay.
They're really famous. Lots of people track vocals with them. Lots of people put them on their mix bus. You can do crazy things with them. Like, there's a boost and a cut knob. I can't remember what they're called, but like on the low end, you can boost and cut the same frequency at the same time. And it'll end up giving you like like maybe it'll give you like a bump at the resonant frequency of your kick drum, but it tightens it and takes off some of the mud and
Interesting.
the flab below that.
Yeah. So it's
So
like letting some through
yeah,
at certain
there's
points.
weird things that that you look at it and you're like, there's no reason why would anyone boost and cut the same frequency at the same time? But if you do it on a Pultec,
It sounds great.
it sounds great
Interesting.
if you do it right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's 8. You got 2 more.
Oh gosh. I'm gonna throw the Weiss, I don't know how you say it. It's a soft tube. It's a limiter. And I heard about it from Greg Wells at some point. He was like, this thing just sounds incredible on Mixbus. It's something you put on. Honestly, like I'll use it to kind of fake master something.
Right. Just for like a
And
rough
sometimes I fake master and I'm like, well, that
demo. Sounds pretty good.
that should be the thing.
Yeah. So it's just saturating.
It's just a really musical limiter compressor thing. It's an emulation of, I think, a digital hardware piece. I know nothing about the actual original hardware,
Yeah.
but I think this is called the Weiss Weiss MM1.
It's a lot of things to remember.
Soft tube has that.
Gotcha.
And still one more.
One more.
Dadgummit.
I made it too easy for you.
I did a delay, a verb. I did channel strip, compressor EQ. I would probably say Pro Q3 fab filter,
Yeah.
because you need to have something that you can get really precise with it and find problems.
You couldn't use like the EQ in your DAW.
Well, see, now you got me. Like, I probably could,
Because I've
but
heard, yeah.
I'm so used to fab filter now that it's
Yeah.
like. But though you're right, those are kind of. I don't know, unless you're
The
using
interface of them is not quite as intricate. You can't deep dive as much, I feel
Yes.
like. Or if you do, it's like kind of finicky.
Yes. Like fab filter kind of works the way that my brain works, and I like that it has like a spectrum analyzer where I can see what's happening with the signal and all that
Yeah.
stuff.
What is one piece of gear that you don't have that you need to buy?
Need to buy?
Like, yeah. Or like something that you've been thinking about for a long time.
Yeah. Okay, I know my answer to this pretty quick, I think. I'm fortunate that I don't really have anything I need to like get work done. Like I've got everything I need.
Yeah.
For a while, I've been toying around with getting nicer monitors. I would love to get some 3-way monitors at some point. Like maybe like the PMC 6-2 or like the ATC 45s or something like in that sort of. It's just a lot of money, and I'm used to what I have, and so I haven't pulled the trigger. And then in the last year or so, I've toyed around with, once the film work started coming in here and there, I was like, well, there's Atmos for film, there's also Atmos for music, so maybe I should do some kind of an Atmos rig. But that feels like a can of worms,
Right.
to me. It's like, if you're going to do that, you're just going all in on like an interface and like 12 speakers.
Right.
So
Sounds expensive.
And it is very expensive. So in my mind, I'm like, well, I can spend enough money to buy a used car on buying some 3-way monitors, or I can spend that amount of money to buy a lower end Atmos setup, because even if it's $500 a speaker, if you're buying 12 speakers and an interface,
Right.
you're in it big.
Right.
So it almost feels like this thing where I'm like, I don't really need either one of them, so I guess I'll just stick with what I have for now.
Yeah.
But at some point, I think it would be, I like the creative challenge of Atmos. That sounds appealing to me. And I have 5.1. Like, you can see I have some extra speakers back there. They're just not set up right now.
Gotcha.
So I've done 5.1 in here.
Yeah.
And that just gave me like the little taste. I'm like, ooh.
It sounds kind of nice.
Atmos would be really fun, because then you can fly stuff on the ceiling and
I got you.
do all this. So, but I don't really have anything that I need. I feel like I work fine with what I have.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for that. It was like with the acoustic panels, it was a long, slow 20-year process
Yeah.
to get there of collecting things here and there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. With my, like, because I play guitar and pedal boards, dude, are so expensive. And it's always like every couple of years, I'm like, I think you're going to afford this pedal. And
yeah.
I think my wife gets to a point where she's tired of hearing me talk about it. And she's like, fine, just get it. Please stop
Right.
talking about it.
Yeah. Well, and the other problem is, too, if you're how would you say? Multidisciplinary, like I am, where I'm doing some production, I'm doing some scoring, I'm doing some mixing, I'm doing music work, I'm doing audio work, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. It's like I can't afford to invest what somebody who only does music production might put into only their music production. I can't afford to invest that into music production and scoring and mixing and da-da-da. So it's like, you have this finite pool of resources, and I'm like trying to spread it out and make sure that
Everything's done
it's like
well.
make sure all the babies are taken care of
Yeah.
and have what they need. But, so nothing in my studio is like crazy. Like the nicest thing that I have, because I was a piano player before I was anything, is this Yamaha upright. That's probably the biggest splurge in my whole studio. Everything else is pretty functional and not splashy. I'm like, I need what I need to get the jobs done, kind of thing.
So, so you mentioned you grew up in Texas.
Yes.
And you talked about like film scoring, which you're like starting to get into more, or you've been in for a while, but you're doing it more.
I wouldn't say I'm doing it more. It's just something that comes up once in a while.
Gotcha.
Which is how most of my stuff is.
Right.
Like I have a very weird work situation where I don't do any of these things all the time, but I do all of them a few times a year.
Yeah. Would you say with the home studio being so popular now, do you think that's how you have to be now?
Like as advice for somebody else?
Like, I mean, I guess if you're the best at mixing, like, I'm sure you could get by with it, but I feel like for myself, starting to do some production stuff, like, you kind of have to do a little bit of everything.
Yep.
To get, I mean, people don't have the money to spend on, mastering and tracking and this musician to come do drums. Like, you kind of have to MacGyver a little bit.
Yep.
So, I mean, would you say, I guess you'd say that contributes to your success, like being able to do a little bit of everything.
Sure. Yeah. To your point about MacGyvering things, very much. Like, I would say, the larger the budget for a project is, the more what I always advise people that are looking at hiring me is like, if you have a bigger budget, that gives us flexibility to bring in some additional people. So like if I'm producing a record, even like what I'm about to do for you guys, in my mind, if you have the budget, it's beneficial to have somebody different mix the record than the person that produced it. And it's beneficial again to have a different person yet again master it.
Right.
Because every time you have another professional set of ears with experience put their ears on it, they either might hear a problem that you didn't catch, or they might have an idea for how to elevate it that next 5%.
Yeah.
Whereas if I'm MacGyvering it, like you said, which I do, like I do stuff where kind of on all ends of the spectrum. I'm involved in stuff where there's a big team, and I'm involved in stuff where they're like, hey, we can pay you for 2 days of time and we just need to get it done.
Yeah.
Anywhere in between. And when I'm MacGyvering it all myself, I can definitely get all the roles done, for sure.
Right.
It's not really a better or worse thing. It's more just I like having other people that I trust and enjoy working with putting their thumbprints on it when that's possible.
Right.
But if that's not possible, then sure, like I can help you write it and produce it and mix it, and it'll be ready.
Yeah.
Is that answering your question?
Yeah.
I do think, to your point, I do think in general it is very important to be versatile
Yeah.
these days.
Yeah.
Especially like if I wasn't, because I'm versatile, I'm busy all the time. But if I only did one or the other of the things that I do, like it wouldn't probably be enough.
Right.
But because I do like 5 or 6 different things, it's great.
Yeah. So you don't have to go down every path of your whole life, but
Okay.
you can if you want. But from Texas, like, who got you into piano? Like, who got you into producing? Like I remember some of those like pivotal moments. Like, what was, that journey like from Texas to right now?
Yeah. I grew up in a very musical family. Mostly on my mom's side, but my dad is also very musical. He wouldn't call himself that, but he is.
Yeah.
He's a guitar player and has great musical sense. My grandma on my mom's side played piano by ear at her Baptist church for like 65 years at one church or
Sheesh.
something like that.
Just take them.
until she physically couldn't do it anymore. And my mom sings, my aunts sing, like there's just a lot. There was always music being played, but also just music was always on. Like we were always listening to music.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of in the water, I would say. And I started playing piano by ear pretty young, like around 5 or so, and picking out different things. And then as I got into, I would say late elementary or middle school, my grandma kind of helped me figure out how to put chords underneath melodies and do that. And then I started kind of learning, how don't you call it, sort of fake versions of classical pieces. Like I'm listening
You got the melody line down.
Well, like I would get more than that. Like I could do the, but it wasn't at all what was on the page. But
Yeah.
I'm listening to the overall thing and I'm like, here's my impression of that.
Right.
And then and that was all by ear.
Yeah.
Like I really didn't read music or anything. And then I think in middle school is when my parents started me in piano so I could learn to read. And I also started playing saxophone in school. Got more reading there. I did jazz band in high school. That was real formative for me. It got me into jazz. That's where I became interested in jazz. And then I went to college for music. And I did 2 years at University of Houston and then 2.5 years at this small school called Lamar, close to where I grew up. And especially toward the last 2 or 3 years, I started gigging with a lot of different musicians. And, there were nights where I'd be doing like, I remember this one night in particular in college. I was like, this is like a peak experience for me and nobody else would understand why. I did like a jazz quartet for like a happy hour at like 4:30 and then put on a tux and went and played with the symphony at 7:30 and then took off the tux and put on jeans and went and played in like a rock club from like 10 to 2 that night.
Versatile.
Yeah. I was like, I think there's something here. I think that I like touching all these different things and not one of these would know that I'm interested in the other one.
Yeah.
Like honestly, in some cases, they look down on the fact that I'm doing the other one, but I like all of it.
Right.
And then when I graduated from college is when I found out about the internship at North Point in Atlanta. So the way I found out about that is way back in the early days of broadcasting stuff on the internet, there was a thing here called 722 that Louis Giglio did of Passion. And they broadcast that on the internet in like 2005, which is crazy.
That is crazy to think about.
And some people in Texas where I was from, this was happening in Atlanta, people in Texas where I was from had found out about this and were watching it. I was watching, I'm like, these are like incredible musicians. Like, what is this? And I'd grown up in church and, participating in all that, but it wasn't anything like what I was seeing here.
Yeah.
Anyway, long story short, I found out that 722 took place at North Point in Atlanta. And I was like, by this time I was like, I kind of had the sense like, I love where I'm from, but in order to do what I think I want to do with my life, I think I need to try to be somewhere else.
So 722 is, how is it, what is that? Like, what is that?
It was a singles ministry. So, yeah.
And they were broadcasting the music from it?
So let me back up a little bit. Yeah, I ran through a lot there without explaining. 722 was a Tuesday night thing that, like, I want to say 3,000 or 4,000 people showed up at every Tuesday night.
At North Point?
At North Point.
But
like,
you said Passion
so
did
Louis
it too,
Giglio,
or?
Louis Giglio ran 722. This is before...
At North Point?
At North Point. This is before Passion City Church was started.
Okay.
Louis Giglio went to North Point back in the day.
I understand.
Yes. So 722 was Louis' Tuesday night singles thing, hosted at North Point, but run by Louis. And it was like people would drive from all over the state to come to it. Like they would have people sitting in the aisles. It was just crazy. But they broadcast it online.
And you were in Texas.
And I was in Texas seeing this and seeing these like musicians doing this at the highest level. And I was like, that looks like an interesting place to be.
Yeah.
So that's literally what got me to Atlanta. Is I kind of traced from 722 to North Point. I was like, well, North Point's got an internship. I'm about to graduate. So I'm going to go intern and just see if I like being in Atlanta for 2 months.
And you did.
And I did. And I ended up moving out here permanently and worked part-time at North Point for a while, gigged around Atlanta for a while.
Yeah.
And then a couple of years in, I met my wife in there. We got married. A couple of years in, I took a full-time job at North Point.
Did you meet her at 722?
No, but I did meet her through small groups at North Point. So we would not have met without that.
I got you. Yeah. So, 18-ish years.
Yeah. So I moved here permanently in 2007.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
But still.
Yeah. So
that's crazy to think about.
When I moved out here, it was almost kind of more of an experiment. I was like, I'll see how this goes. I might end up back in Texas.
Yeah.
Because when I came out here, I had like 15 hours a week of part-time work.
Right.
But I was young and it didn't matter. And I just got more and more involved and ended up going on staff at North Point. Ended up, over the course of 12 or 14 years, doing pretty much everything musical that you can do there.
Yeah.
Like, I was a creative director for music multi-campus, which basically means arranging music for special events and for Easter and Christmas and scoring videos and just those larger things that all the churches are going to share and use.
Yeah.
I did that for a while. Then I was the music director at the North Point campus for 2 years, 3 years, something like that. And then my last job there was I was the staff producer for their record label, which was North Point, had North Point worship on it.
What was I guess that was probably an easy transition to that because you've kind of already been doing it, just not officially the producer for.
Yeah, well, I hadn't been producing recorded music really, no.
Well, I didn't know if you like recorded stuff for like the special events or.
Oh yeah, like I would certainly, record things and demo things out and put instruments on it or whatever, but I wasn't creating masters to go on Spotify.
Right.
The job was, I had done, little things here and there for them and for other people, but when I took that job, that was the first time that I really was like, all right, I'm going to buckle down and I'm doing recorded masters for North Point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dang. So how did that door open up to start doing the recorded stuff?
I had somewhere along the way, while I was doing those other jobs, had started participating in the high school ministry at North Point on the music side. This guy named Kevin Ragsdale, who started Inside Out at North Point, it's the high school thing,
Yeah.
had started it back in the day, and he over the course of a few years kind of put together, I think, just what he thought was a really solid band to do like the special events for students. And I was part of that. And for a while, that's kind of where a lot of the new songs and stuff were coming from. Including, like, I think the one song that everybody probably knows from North Point is Death Was Arrested. That song came from that world, from
The high school
stuff.
Gotcha.
And then eventually Kevin went on to, in addition to doing high school, he was put in charge of the record label.
And he knew you could handle that, right?
There might have been, I don't think it was like an immediate thing. Like, they definitely had like honestly more traditional, where, you know, you contract a producer for a project and then it's over.
Right.
And then I can't remember exactly how it started, but at some point they started a conversation about like, hey, would you want to do this as a job? And I think I'm thinking in retrospect that they just want to be able to put out music more consistently and not have to be constantly locking down people to do that.
Moving their time around for
And
whoever.
I think there was some there was obviously some relationship built up from the years I'd been
Right.
participating in the high school stuff.
Right.
So
how did that turn into? So did you do like contracting stuff outside of the North Point?
Yes.
How did those opportunities come up?
Just randomly. Like,
Just people came up to you, or?
like a lot of it would be, you know, like I can't think of a good example, but maybe I'd work on a video at North Point with somebody from North Point, and then they'd be like, hey, I'm doing this corporate project for Chick-fil-A or something, and they'd be like, can you put music on it? Or I'd be like, sure. Just little things like that.
Yeah.
And or, you know, somebody's like, same thing on the music side, like I'm trying to write and release these songs, can you help me produce them, or can you put some keys on them, or whatever.
Yeah.
So nothing like super regular, just like that was all sprinkled out for years.
Right.
Just little relationship touch points
Right.
here and there of doing different things. And then by the time it came time to leave North Point, there was enough of that there that I was like, oh, I think I can just do this. Like, there's enough of these touch points now and enough relationships now.
Yeah.
Enough people see me as, my internal brand is sort of a musical problem solver.
Yeah.
Like, enough people are like, hey, we have this thing we need to get done. I think Jared would do a good job at solving this problem.
Yeah. Enough people have the word out, have your name of what you do. Yeah. Wow. That's crazy, dude. So how many songs have you worked on with North Point?
With North Point, I think by the time I left, I think in the two and a half years that I was the staff producer, I think I did, I want to say 30 or maybe 35, something.
10 something a year.
Something like that, yeah. It was around that. I know that the target when I signed on was like 12 a year.
Right.
And I think that's roughly where it ended
Like
up.
one a month or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was that a easy pace to keep up with, or? In some ways.
It's interesting, like, production is actually sort of the last of the big skill groups that I came along to. Because I've been playing my whole life. I've been arranging for a long time. You know, scoring came along, and then really diving into like production, like I said, producing a master.
Yeah.
It's probably the last one of the things that I really kind of got my head around. And I still to this day would not ever say that it feels easy. I would just say that I'm getting better at it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Just
like
faster.
yeah, I've learned some things and I know I'm like, okay, here's the workflow and here's how I need to approach it. But production to me specifically always feels like I think just the awareness of you're making music that's going to live on the internet forever. You're like, okay, well, we got to get this right.
Yeah.
So there's just like this different thing compared to like arranging something for a show
Right.
or, a broadcast or something that, might not be here
So you
in a
see it
year.
once and it's gone. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, it's not gone, but
It's not
the
going to come
people are
back.
paying attention to it once.
Yeah. So,
All right. My last question.
okay.
How did you get into the film stuff, the scoring? Because that's something that, like, I am extremely interested in, and I